Hello and welcome to the next tour with
Ian?
and Andia. We are on episode 41. This is transition and booking your next tour.
Yeah,
Ooh,
I see
what's
there's
this
a
going to
play
be
on words
about?
there
I
going on.
know.
Yeah.
All right, over to you, babe.
Yeah. So we're joined here with our wonderful friends, Kevin and Sandy Lombardo. So Kevin is an active duty Air Force colonel. He's got over 30 years of service. He has a retirement date set
Ooh,
end of February of 2027. So where he gets to, transition to book his next tour as well. So yeah, we keep playing on those words
Right.
there. And his lovely wife, Sandy. So we're here to talk a little bit about what they do. So Sandy is a franchise owner of Valor Vacations, and we're going to kind of pull the thread on what that really means. But also, interestingly enough, both Kevin and Sandy are founders of a program called Boots to Beaches. It's a 501c3 nonprofit. And the idea is where they provide restorative vacations for veterans, active duty, first responders, and their families at no cost to them. So, two really, really interesting things that you guys do. So, welcome. How are you
Thank you.
guys?
Doing awesome. So thank you very much for having us on. So
Yes, happy to be here.
Great.
awesome. We're
Yeah.
so excited to chat with you guys again today. And I think it's going to be so fun because I mean, not only like who doesn't like to go on vacation? So like
Right.
this, I feel like this is a great topic to chat about. So we'll just dive right in and talk a little bit about Valor Vacations and, where did the idea come from and how did it sort of get started for you guys, individually as a family? We'd love to just know, the origin story of Valor Vacations.
awesome. So Sandy?
So, when we were getting married and found out he was moving from San Antonio to Colorado, I was selling real estate and I didn't want to try to build up my whole real estate portfolio in another state. It's very hard to do that, knowing we'd only be there a couple of years. So, we moved, and during that process, we were trying to find out something that I could do that I could take with me every 2 years during our moves. And one of Kevin's friends was working with, had owned a franchise for cruise planners and was telling Kevin about it. So we did a lot of research, called a lot of other owners, vetted it, and felt like that was a perfect match for us. And so we went for it. And then coming up with the name was actually not very hard at all. He had bronze medal of valor, right? Is that
Accommodation.
accommodation? So that's kind of like valor and then vacations. We just kind of thought, hey, that rolls really well. So that's how we came up with the name. But
And we knew we were going to have a very big military niche because that's where we
Mhm.
knew people and 90% of our friends were military. And yeah, we started. She's been doing all the legwork for the past almost 14 years with the business, and it's
Uh,
just grown and grown every time we've moved. And now we have she has 5 associates. I'm the silent partner in the business, so, I don't do too much with it, but she has 5 uh,
associates.
associates that are all over the country just doing wonderful things. So that gives us the opportunity to do what we like to do.
Travel.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
Well,
What a terrible perk of
I
your
I
know,
know.
right? Yeah, and
Sometimes.
seeing, Kevin, you're a master at putting things on social media to be able to, well, but in good for good thing, right? You get the opportunity to really kind of, highlight what you're doing, who you get to connect with, and seeing the places that you guys go. My goodness, if only we could be able to travel that, one of these days we're going to grow up and travel like you guys. But what I really enjoy is, how you talk about that name, the valor piece of it. Kevin, you've got a really interesting, story from your time, deployed. There's certainly some tragedy there, but how you've been able to weave that into being able to give back. And we'll talk more again about, the Boots to Beaches piece coming up here, but, foundationally naming that and then also making sure, spouse employment transportability. You guys are like the model of like advocacy for everything we stand for. And I really appreciate that. So thanks for what you guys are doing.
Thank
Yeah.
Absolutely.
you.
All right.
Yeah.
So, all right. So let's talk a little bit more now. Let's pull that second thread on. We went from business. Let's talk a little bit about that now nonprofit, the Boots to Beaches piece. Tell us a little bit about that mission, how it inspired you guys to come up with that name, how it all came together, and kind of what are you guys doing with it?
So over the past 14 years, working with individuals, we found that there was a lot of nonprofits out there that we as cruise planners, Valor Vacations, were booking travel, booking hotels, at one point, we have 14 Medal of Honor recipients that we do travel for. And that's during, events that we would go to, like Blue Skies for Good Guys and Gals out of Dayton, Ohio, Patriot Project out of Canton, Ohio, Halo for Freedom down in Texas, where they were going to Sandy and saying, "Can you help us out with travel, with bookings and everything?" So over the past, 12, 13 years, she's been doing it on the back of her, doing everything's been in gratis. So she's been doing all this work. And then there were times where, there was some out of pocket expenses that were coming out of the business, which we didn't have a problem with. Because we weren't bringing in too much money on the profit side. So over the past couple of years, we've just been doing some research, and then finally, I talked to one of my buddies who runs a nonprofit, and he's just like, "Hey, I think you guys should start a nonprofit just so you could raise some money, do things." Over the course of the years, Sandy has been, she'll get a phone call from an Army, Army E5, or sergeant, and they want to go on a Disney cruise with him and his wife and 2 kids. Well, that's around 17, $18,000. And they only have a budget of, 13, 14,000. So we would go out, we would, try to solicit some money from different organizations and stuff like that. And a lot of times it came out of the back pocket of us, which, is great. And, but with the nonprofit, we could actually go out and fundraise and give that money back to the soldiers, sailors, Marines, the guardsmen or guardians and Coast Guard. And then we wanted to put it out to police and fire and nurses and other people like that. So that's where Boots to Beaches came from. The name, we were just sitting around one day and we were talking about beaches and hey, we want to send people to Sandals or send people on a cruise. And then, it just Boots to Beaches just kind of stuck and hit.
It
And
makes
I
sense.
I
Rolls off
looked
the tongue.
yeah,
Yeah.
I looked it up and we were able to get the LLC in Virginia here. And you know, one of the things, whatever state you go to, the one through N to try to get a nonprofit, it's a 6 to 8 to 10 month process. And thank goodness for Chat GPT because I put all of the information in what I needed to do. And I said, please put it in order. And a month and a half later, I got my 501(c)(3) and the LLC and everything. And we're up and running in January of this year. So we're pretty
Wow.
brain spanking new. So
So
Yeah.
I wanted to say this here because I don't think Kevin remembers this, but a few years ago we were talking and he said, I can't wait to retire. I can't wait to trade these boots in for
for beaches, yeah.
There you go.
flip flops on the beach.
Yeah.
And so, from boots to beaches, I think where that kept spinning in his mind. And then when he said, hey, I got this name now, I think it's great. And he showed me a logo and I said, that is exactly what I pictured it when you first said it way
Very
back when.
kismet.
Yeah.
Wow. That's
Yeah.
amazing. That's so fun that that all came together
Yeah.
like that. Yeah, it is. And that you were able to get the LLC and
Yeah.
that's amazing.
Well, I'm really glad that you guys, highlighted that there's something that I think that all of us want to do when we, take off the uniform and be able to stay connected to that space, and doing so, it can be challenging, as you mentioned, right? A 501(c)(3) and LLC isn't necessarily the easiest thing to do, but doing those things gives you that springboard to be able to then do so much more. And that I think is one of the key things as to, why we're helping highlight what you guys do, because it broadens that envelope and just incredible, incredible. So
Yeah.
thank you
Yeah.
so much.
No, I
And
appreciate
so
it.
yeah, that really like gives me a great segue. Thanks, honey.
Of course. Great for you.
So thinking about, you're coming up on your transition. Your, retirement date is February 28th next year. I mean, that's going to be here before we know it, right? It's going to come so fast. So thinking about that and these two organizations, and I know you're part of both of them, but like, how has that been part of your transition plan? And I mean, clearly you were thinking about trading your boots for flip-flops, but
Mhm.
thinking about these organizations and making that part of your plan and really building having that off ramp, I think is so important. So I'd love for you to talk a little bit about that. And then, what tips would you have for others in your shoes on, I mean, maybe Chat GPT is a good tip,
Yeah.
but others that are, looking into going into entrepreneurship for sure.
Sure. So when we got the franchise, I was a major, I was commander at Cheyenne Mountain, and one thing that's fabulous, the military sends us to all these different schools, and we get our degrees, and we do this and we do that. But when we started actually, when I think when I got back from my third deployment or my fourth deployment in 2009, I had 105 days of leave. And
Good
Ian,
grief.
and you guys would probably
Yeah.
remember this. The old timers like, oh, I got 79 days of leave. I got 100 days of leave. Well, the only people that you're hurting in those situations are yourself and your family because you're not
Hmm.
taking leave. So I just didn't take leave. I just didn't. And then I met Sandy, and she's just like,
You're taking
well,
leave.
yeah, like
Yeah, well
you're gonna
done.
go. We're gonna do this. We're gonna go here, and I, you know, this is our second marriage for both of us, and she's been around the military longer than me, to be honest with you. And so she understood that if you didn't get out and do things, it could be detrimental to the family and marriage and everything else.
Yeah.
So you know, going through school again and everything, and I was like, we got the franchise now. Let me start learning more about the tourism business and other things like that. So I started taking a class. I took one class at Liberty University on business marketing, and then it kept on going and going. And 2.5 years later, I had a master's degree in business management tourism. And I kind of was like, well, if this is something that we're going to do and get the business going, like, I didn't know, you don't know if you're going to make rank. You don't know, what the next assignment's going to be. You don't know what's going to happen. So, I wanted to make sure that I was setting myself up for, my next tour, and that was back in probably 2014, 2015. And I got my master's degree and then continued doing different things. There's so many different classes that you have to take for Disney, for Norwegian,
Mm.
for all these different kind of cruise
Everywhere.
lines and everything. And
Well,
so
you just hit the two that we went on.
there you go.
Well done.
And so I just continued it. And with us going to a lot of Wounded Warrior events throughout the country, then that's when we started meeting you know Leroy Petrie, Medal of Honor recipient, Mr. Patterson. So all these different guys, and they're like, "Oh, can you guys look into a cruise for me and my wife, or can you do this?" And that's where our company just started. I mean, it really steamrolled over the past couple years, and it's been fantastic. And so that's what I wanted to do. I was like, "Hey, so you know, once I get out, because it's hard for me right now. I can't go out there and say, "Hey, Sergeant, you want to go on a cruise or anything?" Like I just don't
Sure.
do that. Now, people are saying, "Hey, does your wife still do that?" I'm like, "Absolutely," and I let her just take care of everything. But now that I'm starting to get out, and there's some opportunities. We're going to retire in Naples, Florida, so that's where we decided to go down to. And so
Gorgeous city.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
beautiful.
So once I get out, and I will probably work for her for a little bit until she, fires me or does something else. So, but
Ma-
I,
Makes him stay silent.
yeah, it makes me stay silent. But that's why I want to
Back
get
to the silent
yeah,
partner.
Yeah.
yeah. And so that's why I wanted to get the nonprofit going to help out those individuals who might want to take that great vacation. And we're going to try to do everything as near to free as possible. There are certain laws that we can't do, that we can't pay for, and other things like that. So, you know, we try to get to near free as possible. And we've already helped out close to, I want to say our number is at 72 veterans right now.
That's incredible.
We were able to assist on bringing in some Vietnam veterans for the Gary Sinise Welcome Home Party
Mm.
here in DC. We had a member, Mr. Guy Gruters, Air Force captain at the time, who was captured, and he was cellmates with Lance P. Saigon in the Hanoi
Wow.
Hilton, and was in there for 5 years. And so just being able to walk around and be at the Vietnam Wall with him, I mean, I would have paid $10,000 for them to be here to do all that. So yeah. So you say, when did you start planning? I mean, we start planning the day we joined. We yell, oh man, I can't wait to get out. I can't wait to get out. Now, 30 years later, it's here. And I'm like, is it really time for me to get out? So
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
Yes, it is.
Wow.
yeah.
Yeah, 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 Sandy, I hear you. I mean, Ian was
You
only
know
did
when you
20,
know.
23
Yeah.
years and I was ready to stop moving. So, Sandy, what are your thoughts as far as like, if others getting into this, maybe even from a military spouse perspective that are interested in opening a franchise, what tips do you have that you could share?
Well, I think vetting whatever franchise you are looking at is the first step. And we did that. And they were an open book. They gave us a whole list of all other franchise owners that we could call on and talk to. And we did. They didn't hide anything. And so we absolutely loved their model that they had in place and their technology. So I think looking at whatever franchise you're looking at, make sure it has the steps to help you become successful as well as vetting them. As far as if there's another military spouse out there that is looking to do something else like this, there's different steps. They can look into owning a franchise or they can work with a franchise owner like myself and start off as an associate where they're working with like Valor Vacations as an associate. I do actually have four of the five who are military spouses from retired military
Wow.
families. So we do always seem to come full circle working with military any which way we can. And we absolutely love it. The other thing that we do is we always shop for the best price we can get for our military families and always trying to push that next bonus or whatever we can get for them
there's a lot of hidden military discounts out there that
that aren't known.
that some companies just don't want you to look at or something because they want
Mhm.
to make their money.
Mhm.
And there's a lot of times where,
Yeah.
yeah, where like Disney will say, we love military, we're going to give a military discount. But what a lot of people don't realize is that they only allot a certain amount per cruise. So
Mm.
if that is already done on that ship, then there is no more military discount.
Right.
Wow.
Whereas NCL, they don't do that. They're like, we have no cap. If you have this, we're going to give you, 10% off your cruise. And so there's just various different cruise lines that I know work really well with
Right.
military. And so I try to gear them towards this scenario maybe because it works better for them and their budget.
Yeah.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's awesome. I didn't
No
even think
kidding.
about that. But I think you're vetting, due diligence. I think there cannot be enough said about that. I think
Mhm.
it is such an important part of opening any business, whether you're going to do a franchise or whether you're, going out on your own. But there's just a
Yeah.
lot in that space that has to be done. So
There
thank you.
is.
Yeah.
There's a
Yeah.
lot.
Yeah. So there's one thing that I really want to quickly highlight before I ask if you guys have anything else you want to share is, Kevin, you mentioned early on that, you carried those 105 days of leave and you just were kind of like, I'm not going to take care of this. So Sandy, thank you. Thank you, one, for understanding the military community, but moreover too, Kevin, I think that it's really incredible that, you were able to leverage her talents to be able to show you how to vacation.
Yes.
Because vacationing just isn't vacationing, right? For the sake of it, but being able to do it right and have professionals help you do it to where, you minimize the stress, you maximize the enjoyment, you completely take advantage of what it's about to restore, to recharge, to recreate, and get those batteries back to where they need to be. So what you guys are doing, both in your business sense and in your nonprofit space, it's incredibly inspiring, and how you're working to just continually connect to our shared community. Hats off to you guys. Thank you, thank you,
Thank
thank
you.
you.
Thank
And
you.
we're excited to be able to push this out, and drive both business and those seeking, your restorative features in your 501c3. So yeah,
Absolutely.
over to you guys. Anything else you'd like to add before we kind of turn it over into kind of the game section?
Sure. One of the things too that I wanted to do with the nonprofit is, I like I said, I've gone to many retreats over the past couple years through other nonprofits and other things, and some are great. But some, they'll bring you in, have you shoot guns and do things and say, okay, we'll see you next year. One of the things that I wanted to that we when we were discussing this is we want to do something where everybody that's vetted to get a either a vacation or a weekend away or something like that, they have to talk to. We have a licensed marriage and counselor or marriage and
And
family
family.
counselor, and yes, and she's world renowned, Miss Susie Lindolfi, and we have a life coach. So who's a former defender who used to work for me, retired senior Chris Jones. And so anytime somebody goes on a vacation, they have to talk to them first, and then when they get back, they have to talk to them again, and then we're going to follow up with them. Just because a lot of times we notice that again, hey, go and do these things, and then you don't hear from them for a year or two. That's one of the things that we put in place. So,
Wow,
and I'm
that's
proud of
very
that
cool.
because
Yeah.
to get the two people that we did is fantastic, and and it's been amazing the people that have reached out to me and Sandy and say, hey, we want to be part of Boots to Beaches. One of them is former prisoner of war Jessica Lynch, who we've done some
Yes.
events with. And when we started talking about that, we just started exchanging texts, and she goes, whatever you need from me, let me know. And she's one of our ambassadors. And then, we have a couple other people, Bill Barrington, who's local to the area, retired '06. Retired '06, Chad Gallagher is my secretary. Just people just came and said, hey, I want to help. I want to do whatever I can. And it's just been fantastic. And we're 7 months in. We're doing a bunch of fundraisers. We're doing different things with other organizations. And, that's some of the things, if they want to visit bootstobeaches.org, you can see all the great things that we're doing. There is a donation site on there for that. And all that money that we get in goes directly to veterans, military members, Gold Star families, and first responders.
That's awesome. So, yes, we will share all of the stuff in the show notes. Thanks, Kevin, for saying that. And we'll make sure that we share all the ways that you can get in touch with Kevin and Sandy and Boots to Beaches and Valor Vacations so that you guys have all the info that you need.
Yes. And when you do connect with Kevin, seriously, check out his photo library. What you guys are doing in your connective space, in your vacation space, everybody's going to be jealous. I promise you, because I know I am. So good stuff. All right. Well, thank you guys so much. At this point, now I'm going to give it back over to Andia real quick, and we're going to start with our first of the two things that are a little bit more on the fun side, a little bit more of a game. And Andia, over to you.
Okay, so this first game is called What's in Your Rucksack? So thinking about your military life and your civilian life, and you can both answer this. You can answer this together, however you want to do it, or Kevin, you can just answer. Totally up to you. But what would you bring from your military life into your civilian life, and then what would you chuck out and leave behind?
And when I read that question, I was like, I guess the one thing that we just and I could probably guarantee you Ian does it too, is the friendships and the connections that I have. I don't, we always complain about people, we complain about this person or that person, but you know what? You know, they're friends for life, and that's one thing that I like to check up on people too. We always say, hey, check on the people below you, but I one of my things that I do and I tell people is I always check up too. I'll shoot an email to a boss that might be retired or something like that, because I love it when I get a text or a message from an old senior NCO or an officer that worked for me years ago. So I believe connections is huge in not just the military, but in life in general. Because you never know when you're going to run into somebody. And I've done
So
that.
true.
I've
Yeah.
ran into somebody in a place where they shouldn't have been and I shouldn't have been. And you're like, hey, how are you? And next thing you know, you're planning something for them, or you're working with them on a project or something like that. So
Epic. Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
awesome. All
Nice.
right, so that's what you're bringing with you. So what are you leaving behind?
I would love to leave behind that work cell phone. I mean,
Thousand
And
percent.
I want to carry one cell phone. I've carried two cell phones since, oh my gosh, like, I mean, since you're a
I couldn't.
captain, since you're
Yeah.
a young ops officer and
yeah,
stuff like that. That second cell phone that seems to
sadly, he
ring.
still does.
I
Yeah.
know. I know.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
That that just rings at 2 o'clock in the morning, and nothing good happens at 2 o'clock in the morning.
No.
True
So
story.
yeah, so
That's a good one, Kevin, for
yeah.
sure.
Yeah, epic. I can't wait to join you one of these days and throw that thing away. All right, good stuff. All right, so now it's my turn. We're going to turn over to two truths and a lie, military style. So we're going to give you two the opportunity to guess the lie from our previous guest before we ask you what your three facts are. Okay, so
Okay.
first up, our previous guest, Melissa Henderson. She is an executive recruiter and has her own firm. And her three pieces of information that we're going to give you are: number one, her dad was a Vietnam era veteran, a Signal Corps officer, paratrooper, and Ranger qualified. Number two, she bootstrapped her business as she's an executive agent in her firm. She started it with $40,000 and didn't take a salary for the first 2 years of it. Or number three, like her dad, she's a qualified skydiver and has done 63 jumps. Which one's the lie?
That's tough.
63 is a lot.
Lot.
That's funny because we were
Yeah.
discussing something. So
The
we're gonna
last one?
the 60. I think the 63 jumps. That's quite a
Well
bit.
done. That is the lie.
I've never jumped out of an airplane.
She's like, nope, hate it.
Yeah, I
Not a
did on
chance.
10 jumps, and I'm like, no more. I'm done. I can't do no more.
You just messed up our line. No, I was
No,
kidding.
I did not.
That's awesome. All right, guys. So over to you. Of course, you're going to share your three facts, and we'll let our next guest have the opportunity to figure out which one is the lie. So, all right.
So the first one is Sandy and I actually met on Match.com with a 98.8% match.
Well, I can believe that one. But
So after 6 weeks of being together, we went on a cruise.
Okay.
okay. All right. Also can believe that.
It's the last one.
The last one is on our 8th tandem jump. I had gathered everybody, and on the field, I proposed to Sandy.
Dude, also can believe that one. You guys have
That was
really
good.
good facts. But again, we're going to let our next guest figure out which one is the lie. So, Kevin, Sandy, thank you again so much for taking the time to be on this episode of The Next Tour. What you guys are doing is incredible. We've said that over and over again. I will say it over and over again, even beyond this recording, because we truly believe it. But again, as Andia mentioned, we'll get all the details on how to connect with the two of you, how to connect with both your business and your nonprofit, and then links to any other resources that we've mentioned here on the show too. So check us out, website, thenexttourpodcast.com. Find us on the socials, anywhere where you get, your podcasts, and YouTube and everything else out there. And
let us know what you guys
Yeah.
are thinking. So anyway, yeah, agree with Ian, Kevin, Sandy. Thank you so much for being here today. The views, opinions, and advice expressed by our guest on the next tour are their own and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of the podcast, Ian, Andia, or any affiliated organizations. While we strive to provide helpful and accurate information, this podcast is for informational purposes only. We encourage listeners to consult with professionals or conduct their own research before making any significant decisions related to military transition or post-service life. The content is intended as guidance and personal perspective, not as official advice.